Hello and welcome to DesignOS. Alright, we have talked about Figma and how to use it as a designing tool. Let's start a discussion about how we will be using Figma to create a real design. First off, when you start working as a product designer, you won't get a very detailed end goal. What this means is that you will get a very vague and general requirement. It can be as simple as we want to make a digital payments app. Now, working on the user experience part of it will be a whole challenge in itself. But we will be skipping that part and talk about how we can tackle the requirement as a UI designer. Rather than jumping into a very detailed discussion at this point, you should always try and keep the discussion to the most general points. Think of it in this way. If we were building a house at the moment, we would be thinking about what kinds of room we'd want, maybe a living room, maybe two bedrooms, a kitchen, and how someone can go from one room to the other. We won't be concerning ourselves with the colors of the wall, what kind of doors we want, what tiles we want. That is a discussion for later. So this is why we divide our design framework into two parts. First one is the interaction framework. The interaction framework is where we define the behavior of the user in different scenarios. How will the user interact with our product? The second part is the visual design framework. This defines how the product will look. It will also help add consistency across your product, make it really feel like one cohesive unit. If you remember our discussion from the approaches to UI video, we discussed templates versus custom design there. We will be doing something similar when we talk about visual design or the VD framework as well. In this video, however, let's jump into the interaction framework. To go along with our explanation of the interaction framework, we will also be taking an example to help you better understand it. So here is the requirement. We want to make a digital payments app where a person can send and receive money to their contacts. Right, to make sure that we are all on the same page, I will break down this requirement as we go along in the series. The first step in the interaction framework is to define form factor, posture, and input methods. So let's see what that means. Here we need to define three things. First one is the form factor, which means where will our product be based? Will it be mobile only, web only? Will it work on an airport kiosk machine, game consoles, or somewhere else? There are many form factors, and the list is growing day by day with the introduction of virtual reality, augmented reality, and more. To make our time easy, we'll make our product only have the mobile form factor, and we'll also have room to expand it into a web format. Great, so we defined our form factor. Next, let's define the posture. Posture is related to how much attention a user may give us while interacting with the product. We can talk about posture at length, but that would be a discussion more related towards UX design. So for now, let's assume that the user will give our product a lot of attention for one simple reason: money. Because money is involved and no one likes to lose money, the user will be very careful while using the product. Lastly, let's define the input methods. Input methods can be derived from both the form factor and the posture. So our product is mobile only with room to expand into a web format. So it is safe to say that our product will be given input through a touchscreen of a smartphone, and later on it will be given input through a mouse and a keyboard of a computer. Other input formats like game console controllers, only number pads like an ATM machine, a steering wheel, remote control, dedicated hardware buttons, and more are not applicable to our current product. And since our product doesn't need any of them, so we will go ahead and leave them for now. Great, so we have now completed the first step of the interaction framework. Let's jump into step 2, which is to define functional and data elements. Let's take a look at data elements first. Data elements are the fundamental subjects of a product. For a messaging app, you will have messages and contacts as the fundamental subjects. Similarly, for a gallery app, photos will be the fundamental subjects. You can derive the data elements from the problem statement or the requirement of your product. So for now, our requirement is we want to make a digital payments app where a person can send and receive money to their contacts. Our fundamental subjects are number 1, money, and number 2, contacts. A person will send money to their contacts. This statement gives us the fundamental subjects. Functional elements are the operations that can be performed on the data elements. We can think of functional elements as the tools we use to modify our data elements. It is very common to have multiple functional elements for a requirement. While defining these functions, we need to keep a few things in mind. Number 1, is the user able to accomplish their goal most efficiently? We don't want the users to be going around in circles and be frustrated with our product. Number 2, best fit for our design principles. If something similar has been done in our product, we may want to reuse what was done previously. Or if you have found a better way, we would want to update our design principles. It's also about keeping everything consistent throughout the product. Fit within the technology and cost parameters. We do not want to break the bank. And that's as simple as that. We would want to talk to the team of developers before implementing crazy features like augmented reality into our product. These take time and money to develop, and it may not be feasible. And last, best fit for other requirements. While creating a solution, we do not want to create new problems for other parts of our product. To keep our product from being confusing, you want to take the top down approach while solving a requirement. Alright, for our own requirement, let's see what our functional elements will be like. First one will be being able to add money to your account. Something like a wallet may be needed to add money to our product. This functional element can be derived from the analogy of the real world where you keep money in your wallet and then you take that money and give that to some other person. The second functional element will be being able to select a contact and send them money. Again, you can derive this from the real world analogy where you want to give a certain person a certain amount of money. So being able to select that person is similar to selecting a contact, and then handing over them the money is like sending them the money. Being able to send money directly to someone who is not a contact. You don't always know the person you're giving your money to. For example, you don't know all the shopkeepers that you give money to in the real world. So you need to be able to do that in a digital payments app as well. And you need to have some way to uniquely identify a person. So for our product, let's send the money to a phone number. This also means all users will need to have a phone number and need to sign into our app using their phone number. The next functional element is being able to ask someone for money. So again, in the real world, if you need money, you ask someone for it, and similarly on our app you will be able to do that. And as an add-on, let's have it that your favorite contacts show up. So let's say you go to a general store every day and you pay the shopkeeper money every day. Looking at this scenario, one could say that you do this payment every day, so why not make it easier for you? So something like a quick dial but for quick payments. Now if you notice one thing, one of our functional requirements, namely being able to add money to your account, is a whole requirement in itself. Because adding money can be a complicated process, and people want to add money from all kinds of different sources, like bank accounts, credit cards, debit cards, gift vouchers, and others. So, we will want to focus on expanding this as a whole requirement too as we go on in the series. Our other functional elements can also be expanded into whole requirements as well, like being able to ask someone for money may require a little chat interface. This will be a whole requirement too, but we will look onto all of this a little later. Next step in our framework is to determine functional goals and hierarchy. At this point, what we want to do is optimize our functions and see what is important and what is not. To do this, we have to group some of our data and functional elements together. See if something can be a parent to the other. So let's try to do this inside of Figma. Alright, so these are all the elements that we have. We have two data elements in user and money, and we have a few functional elements in wallet, adding money, choosing a specific contact, sending money, and the favorites option. So let's try and make a flow for sending money. To send money to someone, we're going to have to start with the user itself. What would you want the user to do first? Well, if we take a look at the real world, first thing you do when you want to give someone money is look into your wallet. So that is a good place to start. Let's just go ahead and name this flow send money, and I'll use the arrow tool to show how our flow goes. So first one is to send money, and first of all you're going to have the user check their wallet, right? So I'll just rename this to user 1, and now the user 1 will check their wallet. All right, now that the user has checked their wallet, they're going to face two scenarios. The first scenario is where the user already has enough money in their wallet and can go ahead with the payment. The second scenario is where the user does not have enough money in their wallet and will have to go and add money. And usually, to show two scenarios, what I like to do is go to Polygon, create a polygon, and make this four sides to turn it into a rhombus, remove the fill, add the stroke, make it white, and in here, this is usually called a decision box. You can go ahead and remember that name. Right, so there are two outcomes to having enough money. One is that the user has enough money. So yes, the user has enough money. The other is that the user does not have enough money. So no, the user does not have enough money. So if the user does not have enough money, first thing we'll do is prompt the user to add money. And now we're going to have to look at all the options that the user may get when they are prompted to add money. So the user may get many options here. So I'll go ahead and add a decision box here. And now we can write here. So there are going to be many options. I'm not going to explore all of them. So I'll just go ahead and make an arrow over here And I'll just keep on adding more and more options because there are many options. So and we can fill all of these later. Now we'll assume that the user has added money after all of this happens, and we can make a little rectangle here, and we can write user added money successfully. But now you have to understand one thing. Once the user has tried to add money, there will be two outcomes of that. One, that the user adds money successfully, and two, the user does not add money successfully. Either way, we're going to take the user back to the same screen of having enough money. All right, so now we have closed this bottom row off. We can go ahead and talk about what if the user has enough money. Well, if the user has enough money, all he has to do is go ahead and select a specific contact, and then he can send the money. So this is quite straightforward now. Now the user can select a specific contact and send the money. So this whole flow that we have created is how a user will send money using our product. You can go ahead and try to create more and more flows for all the other functional elements we have, like the wallet. What if the user wants to check the wallet balance? What if the user wants to check the history of their wallet? There are a lot of flows that you can create with just this wallet functional element. And similarly, you can create a lot of flows for all of the other functional elements as well. So go ahead and give that a try. So now we have created a hierarchy and a flow for how a user may want to go about the process of sending money. Let's move on to the next step of our framework. This step involves sketching the interaction framework. You can do this on paper or you can do this in Figma too. For the purpose of the series, I will be sketching inside of Figma. So we can go ahead and start adding artboards now. So hit the A to bring up the artboard tool. I'll go ahead and add an iPhone 8 Plus. And we can start creating sketches for our screens. So usually what I like to do is create a simple but effective sketch for all my screens. So I go one by one and take a look at my flow. So the first thing that a user does is check their wallet balance. So why not provide the user with their wallet balance right up front? So I'll go ahead, add a rectangle, center it, and wallet balance, and change this to something bold, center it, increase the size. And change this to whatever their wallet balance is. Let's say 1,000. Put a comma there. Increase the size. And let's make these two white and center them. Right. So that will be my wallet balance there. I also had a very specific functional element called favorites. So without going much into detail about the flow of my favorites right now, I'll just go ahead and add a favorite section. So I will create a few circles and just place them on my screen and duplicate these. And these will be my quick dial contacts. You can go ahead and open the dialer of your phone and see how quick dial contacts are done on your phone app. Similarly, we'll have quick dial contacts on our digital payments app as well. I will want to add a settings or some sort of a profile option because the user may want to check some settings. Again, not going into much detail. This is just rough sketching at the moment. And I'll go ahead and add a big button for our transfer money as well, or send money, something like that. Transfer. The reason that I'm using the word transfer here is because our app does two things. It asks for money from someone and it sends money to someone. So because it's two things and I don't want to create two buttons for that, I'll just go ahead and use a generic term for both of them. So transfer is my term. Center this. And if the user has done any previous transactions, they might want to check the history as well. So we'll go ahead and add a check history option as well. And finally, I'll just add another option for checking their bank balance. Check bank balance. All right, so that is how we want the home screen of our product to look like in very generic and very simple terms. So we'll go ahead and check the screen for the next option. So we'll go ahead and create the screen for the next item in our flow. So the next item is the wallet. We've already made the wallet. Enough money. Well, the user can check if they have enough money here or not. And we'll go ahead and sketch out the yes part of this. So yes, the user has enough money. Next thing they have to do is select a specific contact. and we can go ahead and give the user a list. A list is quite simple to create. All we have to do is create a column of people. So I'll go ahead and type person's name because you are going to have to give the person a name. One good thing about Figma is that if you have a single layer, if I go ahead and duplicate a layer like this person's name, I just hit Control T and move it downwards and center it with this circle. If I hit Control T on this person's name layer again, it will go ahead and move it down the same amount as I moved it in the first place. So watch this. If I hit Control T, it will move it down that much. And again, if I can hit Control D again, it will automatically move it down the same amount as I did with my first layer. So that is an easy way to create a list. And I'll go ahead and add a caption to this whole thing as well. Let's change this to select someone to transfer money to, and we can go ahead and sketch the interface where our person will actually try to transfer money. So Control D again, delete all of this. I'll move the person's name above because we want to have a chat like interface. I'll go ahead and add a simple text box here, and again add a button. This will be a send button, so I can write a message dot dot dot, make this white and center it, and I can simply create an arrow using the pen tool and hit done. Make this white, maybe a little bit thicker, and use the gap property to round off the edges, and that will be my send button. And now we have two options that a person can do when transferring money. So that is how our chat interface will look like on a very simple level. And in case of sending money, the first thing that we will do is again copy this, and we can center this here because now we don't have a chat interface. Sending money to, and there you go. We can now change this from a message to enter an amount and move this, and we can remove the request option and just keep the send button and center this, center that. And if you want, we can also add a message to our send request. So enter the message, the user can attach a message to the money that they're sending. All right, so that will be our money sending screen, right? So next thing that we want to do is add a post screen, letting the user know that your money has been sent. So I'll just go ahead and duplicate this specific one and add a chat message saying you sent, and place this up there, copy it, and change this to $100. Increase the size. Now the user has confirmation that they have indeed sent the money to a specific person. And at this point, let's say one bad thing happens. If the user has a balance of $1,000 and they enter an amount greater than $1,000, you run into a problem because our user just checked the money using their eyes and nothing that we did on our end at our product or in the app that checked the balance. The user can enter any amount. So if the amount is greater than what the user has in their wallet, we're going to have to let the user know that wait, you can't send this much money because you don't have this much money in your wallet. Let's just go ahead and create a screen that says not enough balance, and we'll add a button that says add money. Now we can go back to a flow and check what we want to do when the user wants to add money. So when we prompt the user to add money, the user gets all the options that they want to add their money. So for this specific scenario, we can go ahead and make a screen for add money, and we can go ahead and give the user a few options. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this button, and the first one will be debit card, credit card, net banking, link bank account, and just give an option for others. In some cases, when you're designing a product, you may not know all the options that you're going to have in your end product. So for that, I like to give a simple option for others. You can remove this in the final UI design if there are no other options, and if there are other options, you can go ahead and keep on adding them again. So now that we're done sketching all of our screens for the send money option, we'll go ahead and construct paths. This step is called constructing key path scenarios. These paths are basically the visualization of how a user will go through our product and interact with it. So what we need to do now is draw arrows to see where a user can go from one page to another. Go ahead and select the arrow tool. Go ahead and lock all my frames as well so that none of our arrows enter our frames. So the first option is the transfer one. Because when we click on transfer, we go to this screen. I'll go ahead and create an arrow there and make it red, increase the width, and change this. That is our first interaction. Now on this screen, when our user clicks on any person's name, he goes to the next screen. So I'll go ahead and create an arrow for that as well. And from here, when the user clicks on the send button, they go to the send money option. So I'll go ahead and create an arrow for that. All right, from this page, when the user clicks on the send option, we'll go back to the same chat interface because that money has been sent. Here we run into a problem. Although the user sees that the money has been sent, we may want to give the user some sort of a screen where it shows, like maybe with a little animation, that yes, your money has been sent. So I'll go ahead and add that screen as well. All of this and move this all in the middle. All right, so when the user clicks send, he gets to the screen. And from the confirmation screen, the user will go back to their chat interface without the user interacting with the product. So maybe a timeout or something like that might happen. So just go ahead and copy this arrow here and move this out onto the artboard. So we don't have to look for a button here. The user will go back to the chat interface without doing anything. And we can go ahead and connect these two as well. So if the user has clicked the send option and there is not enough balance, then he goes to a not enough balance screen like that, and the user will get the option to add money. So let's add that. And once the user has added money using any of these, the user will go back to the enter amount option. So I'll go ahead and create an arrow for that as well. All right, so that is how we would want our user to interact with our product when trying to send money. Our final step in the framework is to check the design with validation scenarios. There are three different kind of scenarios that we need to look into. The first one is the key path variant scenarios. These are scenarios which occur many times but are not in the main scenario. So in our example, if the person's wallet does not have enough money, then the person will be asked to add more money. This will happen many times because in real life, your wallet runs out of money many times and you're going to need to add money back to your wallet many times. The next one is necessary use scenarios. These are the scenarios that must be performed, but they do not occur frequently. Like logging into an app, it is necessary that you must do it, but you don't do it every day. In our example, we can see how we made a mistake. We made an option for adding money, but we did not take into account what would happen if the person has already added money previously. By that, I mean we may already have some of his details, like his credit card, debit card saved. To avoid him from re-entering his details again and again, let's make another scenario where we have his details saved for us. So we'll just go ahead and unlock all of these layers, and I'll change this screen to a different one. I'll just add a couple of more options, move this down and add similar to our favorite screen. I'll go ahead and add these circles. So these will be our user's favorite way of adding more money. The final kind of scenarios are edge scenarios. These do not happen very often, but they do occur and we need to be ready for this. Let's try to think an edge case scenario for our example. Now, if we have sent the money, but the user that we sent the money to does not exist, they may have deleted their account. What happens then? Well, we need to take care of this and we need to add a scenario where we check if the user is currently registered with us before we send the money. So I'll just go ahead and add a screen where once the user says send the money, Instead of saying you send the money, you say user does not exist. And that will be as simple as that. And add another arrow for this. And there you go. And that is how you end up with a validated interaction design. This example is still not complete. You can try and find many other scenarios and add them to this design. But this is a great place to start and explain how the interaction framework works.